Bryce David Laspisa was a young man with a bright future ahead of him. At just 19 years old, he had already made an impression on those around him with his charisma, artistic talent, and warm personality. A sophomore at Sierra College in Rocklin, California, Bryce was thriving in the classroom and among his peers. He was the kind of person who could light up a room, a beloved son, and a creative soul known for his artistic flair and vibrant energy. But in August of 2013, Bryce's life took an inexplicable turn that no one could have foreseen. It was supposed to be just another week as summer came to an end, but instead, it marked the beginning of one of the most baffling mysteries California has ever seen. Bryce vanished under circumstances so strange that they continue to haunt his family, friends, and investigators to this day. Over the span of just a few days, Bryce's behavior shifted dramatically. His actions became increasingly erratic, culminating in a puzzling road trip southward, a journey that would ultimately lead to more questions than answers. Why did Bryce abruptly leave his campus in Chico? What prompted his odd behavior and cryptic phone calls to his parents? And most importantly, where did he go after his car was found wrecked near Castaic Lake? In this story, we'll delve into the strange disappearance of Bryce Laspisa, a case that remains unsolved to this day. To understand what might have happened, we must begin at the very start of his journey. To truly understand the story of Bryce Laspisa, we need to go back to where it all began, his life with his family. Bryce grew up as the only child of Karen and Michael Laspisa, a couple who adored their son and shared a close bond with him. The Laspisas described Bryce as charismatic and creative, someone who always found joy in expressing himself through art. His bright personality made him a magnet for friends, and he thrived in a loving and supportive household. After graduating high school, Bryce began his college journey at Sierra College in Rocklin, California. Like many young adults, he was excited to explore his independence, embrace new opportunities, and form lasting friendships. Bryce quickly adapted to college life, forming strong connections with his peers and beginning a relationship with Kim Sly, a fellow student who would later play a pivotal role in the events leading to his disappearance. Those close to Bryce described him as outgoing and reliable, someone who could always be counted on for support. Despite his cheerful exterior, Bryce also had a deeply introspective side. His artwork often reflected his unique perspective on the world, showcasing his talent and creativity. To those who knew him, Bryce seemed to be thriving both socially and academically. But as the summer of 2013 approached, subtle changes in Bryce's behavior began to emerge, changes that would soon puzzle his friends, family, and the investigators who would later work on his case. For Bryce Laspisa, the summer of 2013 marked the beginning of a subtle but undeniable shift in his behavior. Those closest to him began noticing changes in his demeanor, changes that were difficult to explain. Bryce, who had always been outgoing and upbeat, started withdrawing at times and acting erratically at others. Friends reported that he had begun drinking heavily, consuming alcohol in ways that raised concern. Additionally, Bryce had recently started taking Vyvanse, a prescription stimulant typically used to treat ADHD. While Vyvanse is known to increase focus and energy, when misused, it can lead to serious side effects, including anxiety, agitation, and insomnia. Paired with alcohol, its effects can become even more unpredictable. Bryce's friends and girlfriend, Kim Sly, were among the first to notice the changes. Kim, who had always been supportive of Bryce, grew increasingly concerned about his behavior. She described him as acting uncharacteristically distant and erratic. Then, just days before his disappearance, Bryce shocked Kim by ending their relationship without warning. He told her she would be better off without him, a cryptic statement that left her heartbroken and confused. Kim wasn't the only one alarmed. Bryce's friends also began noticing behaviors that didn't align with the person they knew. Despite their growing concerns, Bryce insisted he was fine and brushed off their attempts to help. As the days wore on, the signs became harder to ignore. But no one, not his friends, not Kim, and not even Bryce's parents, could have predicted what would happen next. On the morning of August 28, 2013, Bryce Laspisa made a sudden decision. Without any explanation, he packed up his belongings and left Sierra College in Rocklin, California, a place where he had spent the past year of his life. With no clear destination in mind, Bryce began driving south, seemingly aimlessly, hundreds of miles away from his original path home. That afternoon, Bryce called his parents, Karen and Michael. He told them he was on his way home to Laguna Niguel, a familiar place he had visited countless times before. But something didn't sit right with him.
"Hey Mom, hey Dad, just wanted to let you know I'm on my way. Everything's good, I'll be home soon."
It was a reassuring call, but there was something in Bryce's voice that unsettled them, an unfamiliar tone, an absence of clarity. Bryce had always been open with them, and this seemed off. Despite what he told his parents, Bryce didn't head directly home. Instead, he took a long detour, his route meandering through desolate stretches of highway, far from any logical destination. It's as though the roads themselves were leading him into the unknown. At a gas station near Buttonwillow, Bryce stopped to refuel. The gas station clerk later recalled that Bryce seemed agitated, though polite. He didn't seem like himself. His eyes were wide, his speech disjointed. The clerk thought he might be intoxicated or under the influence of something. Later, Bryce crossed paths with a tow truck driver, who recalled that Bryce had appeared strangely unsettled. According to the driver, Bryce seemed to be in a rush and appeared confused, almost as if he didn't know where he was or why he was there. Despite these unsettling encounters, Bryce continued his journey, now driving further south, past towns he had no intention of visiting. The entire time he kept in touch with his parents, offering vague reassurances, but giving no real explanation for his strange detour.
"Hey Mom, Dad, don't worry, I'm okay. I just needed to clear my head for a bit. I'll be home soon."
But his words were cryptic, his tone lacking the warmth and certainty that Karen and Michael were used to hearing from their son. It was as though Bryce was trying to convince them that everything was fine, while his behavior seemed to suggest otherwise. Little did they know, this would be the last time they would hear from Bryce in the way they were accustomed to. His road trip was spiraling further into uncertainty, and no one could have predicted that his journey would soon take a tragic turn. By August 30, 2013, Bryce Laspisa's journey had come to an abrupt and haunting halt. His car was discovered overturned just off a remote road near Castaic Lake in Southern California, an area known for its steep hills and dense vegetation. The crash was peculiar. Bryce's car had rolled down an embankment and come to rest on its roof. But it was the details of the scene that raised more questions than answers. Inside the car, investigators found Bryce's belongings scattered about, including his wallet and his phone, left untouched. There was no sign of foul play, no indication that anyone had stolen or rifled through his possessions. One of the most puzzling aspects of the crash was the back window, which had been shattered from the inside. The glass was broken outward, as if someone or something had forced their way out of the car, despite the fact that no footprints or other signs of struggle were found nearby. Immediately, a massive search operation was launched. Police, volunteers, and search teams combed through the surrounding wilderness, hoping to find any clue as to Bryce's whereabouts. The area around Castaic Lake was searched thoroughly. Dogs were brought in, drones hovered above the lake surface, and divers were dispatched to search the waters beneath. Yet, despite their efforts, Bryce was nowhere to be found. As the hours stretched into days, Bryce's parents clung to the hope that their son would be found. But with each passing moment, the uncertainty and fear grew heavier. Where was Bryce? What had happened after the crash? The discovery of Bryce's car was just the beginning of a mystery that would only deepen. And as the search continued, it became increasingly clear that the answers to this case would not come easily. As the search for Bryce Laspisa continued, a variety of theories began to emerge. With no clear answers and no trace of Bryce to be found, investigators, along with his family and the public, were left grappling with the same haunting question: what happened to him? One of the first theories to surface was that Bryce may have experienced a mental health crisis, a psychotic break or extreme stress that led him to behave erratically. His unusual actions in the days leading up to his disappearance, his odd behavior, his breakup with Kim, and his sudden, unexplained road trip could all point to a severe psychological breakdown. Could Bryce have been battling something deeper than anyone realized? Some speculated that he might have been overwhelmed by stress, mental health issues, or feelings of alienation, leading him to snap. Another possibility was that Bryce chose to disappear on his own accord, perhaps a voluntary escape. Had he decided to leave everything behind and start anew, unable or unwilling to face his challenges head-on? It's a theory that has lingered in the minds of many. Could it be that Bryce, overwhelmed by personal turmoil or a sense of hopelessness, deliberately drove away and severed ties with everyone he knew, seeking a fresh start somewhere far from the life he once had? Then there's the more unsettling possibility of foul play. Did something happen to Bryce after the crash? It's possible that he succumbed to injuries from the accident or encountered someone in the area who caused him harm. The fact that the car was found in such a remote location and that Bryce was never found nearby raised questions about whether something sinister occurred. Could the crash have been just the beginning of a more tragic sequence of events? Some have speculated that Bryce may have crossed paths with a stranger or even met with foul play after his car went off the road. Another theory revolves around the drugs Bryce was taking. Vyvanse, a stimulant often prescribed for ADHD, can have serious side effects, especially when combined with alcohol. The increased stress from his emotional turmoil, paired with the disorienting effects of these substances, could have influenced Bryce's decision-making, leading him to act irrationally. Had the combination of Vyvanse and alcohol clouded his judgment? Was Bryce's road trip a desperate attempt to flee from his inner demons? Or was he experiencing a mental break that distorted his sense of reality? As the investigation continued, these theories remained just that, speculations. Each one carries its own weight, but none provide definitive answers. What happened to Bryce Laspisa after he left Sierra College? His story remains shrouded in mystery, and the search for the truth continues to this day. As the days turned into weeks, law enforcement intensified their efforts to uncover the truth behind Bryce Laspisa's disappearance. Despite their determination, the case remained frustratingly elusive. Investigators conducted numerous interviews, speaking to anyone who might have seen or heard something out of the ordinary. They also launched a series of public appeals, hoping someone would come forward with critical information. Search teams, equipped with specialized tools, scoured the vast area surrounding Castaic Lake. Search dogs were brought in to track Bryce's scent, drones flew overhead, and divers searched the murky waters of the lake itself, hoping to find some trace of Bryce. The lake itself posed one of the greatest challenges. Despite the diligent efforts of the divers, the water remained silent with no sign of Bryce. The dogs were unable to pick up a trail, and no new leads emerged from the surrounding area. The area around Castaic Lake is rugged and difficult to navigate. Investigators faced the added challenge of a lack of concrete evidence, no footprints, no personal items beyond what was found in the car, and no signs of where Bryce could have gone after the crash. With each passing day, the lack of new evidence made the investigation even more complicated. Was Bryce still alive somewhere in the wilderness? Or had something darker occurred? Authorities continue to search for any clues in the case of 19-year-old Bryce Laspisa, who was last seen on a strange road trip near Castaic Lake. Despite extensive efforts from law enforcement, volunteers, and local residents, no trace of the missing college student has been found. Throughout the search, Bryce's parents remained hopeful but increasingly distraught. Each new search effort brought them closer to the reality that their son might be lost forever. For Bryce's family, the investigation into his disappearance was a painful and exhausting process, one that forced them to confront the unsettling possibility that their son might never be found. Despite the tireless efforts of law enforcement and the community, the mystery of Bryce's disappearance remains unsolved. What happened to him after that final phone call? The search for answers continues, and with each passing day, the questions grow deeper. The disappearance of Bryce Laspisa has had a profound impact on his family. For Karen and Michael, every day since their son went missing has been an emotional roller coaster. Their love for him has driven them to relentlessly pursue answers, no matter the cost. In the months that followed Bryce's disappearance, the Laspisas never gave up. They organized their own search efforts, reaching out to private investigators, distributing flyers, and constantly appealing for any new leads, all while holding on to the hope that their son might still be alive. Bryce's disappearance sparked an outpouring of support from the local community. Volunteers offered their time to assist in search efforts, and countless individuals donated money, time, and resources to help the family. The community's support was instrumental in keeping Bryce's case in the public eye. Media outlets covered the story extensively, ensuring that his disappearance was never forgotten. With each new news report, more people became aware of Bryce's story, and more eyes were looking for answers. Bryce's case became more than just a local tragedy. It became a symbol of the search for truth in the face of the unknown. His family's quest for answers resonated with people across the country, all of them hoping for a breakthrough. But the emotional toll on the Laspisa family has been unimaginable. Every day without answers has been a day filled with doubt, fear, and an overwhelming sense of loss. The unrelenting hope for closure, for the chance to finally know what happened to Bryce, is the driving force behind their continued efforts. We just want to know what happened to our son. Every day, we hope that somehow, somewhere, there's an answer. It's the only thing that keeps us going. The Laspisa's unbreakable resolve to find their son has become a testament to a parent's love. But their journey has not only been about finding Bryce, it has also been about holding on to the hope that closure will come, no matter how long it takes. Though the search continues, as the search for Bryce Laspisa continued, one thing became clear. The more answers were sought, the more questions arose. With no definitive conclusions and no trace of Bryce ever found, several key mysteries remain unsolved, each one fueling the growing sense of uncertainty that looms over this case. The first and most haunting question is, why did Bryce drive aimlessly for hours instead of returning home as planned? His journey, which began as a simple drive from Sierra College to his parents' house in Laguna Niguel, quickly veered into the unknown. Bryce's detour took him south, far from his intended destination. He drove hundreds of miles in a direction that made no sense, passing up opportunities to turn around, even when his parents called, concerned for his well-being. What drove Bryce to take this strange and erratic path? Was he trying to escape something, or was he simply unable to make sense of his own thoughts? Was it the pressure of his personal life, or perhaps a deeper mental struggle that led him to act in such an inexplicable way? What triggered Bryce's sudden change in behavior? His friends, girlfriend, and family noticed the alarming shifts in his demeanor in the days before he left. Was it his mental health, perhaps aggravated by stress or substance use, that caused this transformation? Was the increased use of Vyvanse or alcohol a contributing factor? Some have speculated that these substances could have clouded his judgment, pushing him into a state of confusion and paranoia that ultimately led to his erratic behavior. And perhaps the most perplexing question, what happened after the crash? Bryce's car was found in a remote location with no sign of him anywhere nearby. The back window had been shattered from the inside, yet there were no other physical signs to explain why Bryce might have exited the car in such a way. Despite extensive searches of the area, Bryce was never found. Did he wander off trying to escape something or someone? Or did something more sinister happen after the crash? Something that we may never fully understand. These unanswered questions have left those who knew Bryce and those who followed his case wondering what truly happened that fateful night. What could have led him down this path? And why is it so difficult to find the answers? As the years go by, the mystery of Bryce Laspisa's disappearance remains unsolved. The questions continue to linger unanswered, casting a long shadow over a case that, despite all efforts, seems as elusive as ever. The disappearance of Bryce Laspisa is a case filled with more questions than answers, a haunting mystery that continues to captivate the public's attention. Despite years of searching, no one has been able to piece together what truly happened that night, and the search for answers remains as elusive as ever. For Bryce's family, the pain of not knowing what happened to their son is a constant weight, one that has only grown heavier with time. The unanswered questions about why Bryce drove aimlessly for hours, what caused his sudden change in behavior, and what happened after the crash have left a profound and unshakable void in their lives. But despite the uncertainty, the Laspisa family, along with their community, have never given up. They continue to hold on to the hope that one day, someone, somewhere, will come forward with the information that will finally shed light on what happened to Bryce. This case is not just about one young man. It is a reminder of the power of community, the importance of never giving up, and the role we all play in keeping stories like Bryce's alive. If you know something, no matter how small it may seem, speak up. Someone's life and the answers they seek may depend on it. As we reflect on Bryce's story, it serves as a stark reminder of the often overlooked struggles that so many face when it comes to mental health. What role did mental health play in his disappearance? Was he suffering silently from something no one knew about, pushing him to make decisions that would ultimately change his life forever? This case calls for greater awareness and understanding of mental health, a topic that remains underrepresented in conversations around missing persons and unexplained behavior. It serves as a reminder that sometimes the most crucial answers are not found in physical evidence, but in our collective willingness to address the invisible struggles that so many people face every day. Bryce Laspisa's story is one that continues to haunt, not just because of the mystery surrounding his disappearance, but because it forces us to ask difficult questions about the fragility of the human mind and the importance of understanding the signs before it's too late. If you enjoyed this video and want to explore more true crime mysteries, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. That way, you'll never miss another journey into the shadows. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time as we uncover more untold stories.